Welcome to Speak of the Devils, the premier podcast for Sun Devil football. I'm Brad Denny with 3TV.
And I'm Joe Healy with DevilsDigest.com.
We made it, Joe. Football is here. Helmet on helmets and tackles will be made. Touchdowns will be scored. We're going to preview Sun Devil football.
Man, there are a lot of good weeks throughout the year, but there ain't nothing better than game week. And that's exactly where we are. It's been a bit of a journey and a heck of a waiting period since that New Year's Day game last time the Sun Devils were on the field. The page has turned officially. We are here to the 2025 season. Some games have already been played. We got a little bit of motion in the Big 12 going on already, and it gets real for Sun Devil fans this Saturday night. ASU takes the field against a very good Northern Arizona football team.
Yeah, ranked versus ranked matchup, and we're going to go behind NAU lines with the old friend of the program, the voice of the Lumberjacks, Mitch Strohman. We'll be talking to a couple of Sun Devil players a little bit later, get their thoughts on the opener. It's just an exciting time of year as we finally, after so many months of all this hype, these raised expectations in Tempe, get to see football.
And before we jump into it all, got to give a quick shout out to the wonderful people at 100 Mile Brewing, Sun Devil Family Charities, and most of all, every single one of y'all who came out, checked out Brad and me and our wonderful guests last weekend at our third annual live podcast. Incredible time, a packed house, a lot of Sun Devil passion and energy and enthusiasm. Also, a huge thank you to our wonderful friend, Sherry Brooks, for once again taking photos and doing incredible photography of the event as she's done each year. A wonderful human being. We're very grateful for that help and incredible pictures as well. I think Brad and I both got some with our significant others, save some money on like a photo shoot, that sort of thing. It's a win-win for everybody involved. And if you're talking about wins, well, you got to be one of the homies if you really want to win. What I'm talking about is you got to support Burrito Express. If you want a restaurant as passionate about Sun Devil athletics as you are, you got to make Burrito Express your local burrito joint. Burrito Express began with a vision, a family-run Mexican restaurant serving authentic food with fast, friendly service and deep community roots. Today, that vision lives on, making Burrito Express a true multi-generational, family-fed legacy. From the beginning, it's always been about flavor, family, and the people they serve. At Burrito Express, they're more than just a place to eat. They're part of the neighborhood. From day one, they've been focused on bold flavors, fast service, and real connections with the communities they serve. It's that mix of quality, culture, and care that makes them different. I know you've all seen it on Twitter, how active they are in support of Sun Devil athletics and Sun Devil athletes. You can eat or order delivery from their restaurant locations in Tempe, Chandler, Scottsdale, and Gilbert, or check out their fast and fresh locations inside Circle K stores in Gilbert and Queen Creek. There are a few select ones of those. You can check them out online at theburritoexpress.com and follow them on social media at BurritoEXP on Twitter and Instagram. Burrito Express AZ on TikTok and on Facebook at facebook.com/your local burrito joint.
All right, before we dive into our game preview, let's go over a couple of news notes. Starting off on the injury front now, of course, through camp, it's been very physical. There's a couple of minor injuries, but there unfortunately is one season-ending injury for defensive tackle Michael Gardner. Of course, the Valley product who spent some time at Oregon before transferring back here. Battled some injuries in spring, finally got healthy a little bit, but unfortunately, according to Kenny Dillingham, it's a ruptured Achilles that's going to keep him out for the year. Now, of course, ASU's in pretty good shape at the defensive tackle spot with CJ Fight, Jacob Rich Kangaika. Zach Swanson's now back from his foot injury, and he's looked really good. Blazing Lona Wong as well. But Gardner, of course, a young player with a lot of upside. Unfortunately, he's going to have to wait a year to make his debut.
Yeah, he's had some injury issues, I believe, at Oregon, if I'm not mistaken. I think he missed all of last season too, if I'm not wrong there. So certainly hope that he can get healthy and maybe get back some of that time of eligibility and have a lengthy and productive career for the Sun Devils. Sadly, though, it will be until next year that we'll see him, if I'm not mistaken. So he and Plas Johnson are the two out for the year as it stands right now.
And although it looks like quarterback Cam Dyer, the true freshman, he did tear his ACL. Looks to be a little bit ahead of schedule. It was initially said a season-ending injury, but he was participating in early parts of fall camp, so we'll see. I mean, obviously, when you have Sam Levitt and Jeff Sims at the top, maybe you don't need to press him into duty. But yeah, right now it looks like Plas and Gardner are the two. All right. So on a more positive note, let's talk about the Pat Tillman Leadership Council. Those players have been officially revealed. 4 returners from last year's Leadership Council. Now, this is, of course, a situation where coaching staff has no say. This is all player voted on. These are the players that the team, the folks in that locker room, have chosen to be the representative to lead them. And obviously, if you follow this program, none of these names should really come as a shock. Now, the 4 guys that are returning, of course, quarterback Sam Levitt, then a trio of defenders. Xavier Alford, who I've said on this program is probably one of the most impactful players on and maybe even off the field I've seen in a number of years. Keyshawn Elliott, the linebacker, defensive tackle CJ Fight, was already on the council a year ago. Pretty notable as a youngster, now one of the best defensive tackles in the country. Some of the newcomers this year: wide receiver Jordan Tyson, cornerback Keith Abney, linebacker Jordan Crook, defensive end Clayton Smith, left tackle Josh Atkins, or I guess actually you can now officially say is he's been anointed the starter, center Ben Coleman, and a defensive tackle Jacob Rich Kangaika.
And that's another point that we could add, I guess, to the list of news is that it's seemingly official that Ben Coleman is your starting center for week 1 for the Sun Devils. And that's, an incredible list that you rattle off there. I think the best part about it is that it's completely player voted. You don't have coaches involved. Not to say that they would make bad selections, but when you make it more of like an internal lead by example kind of thing, and those guys are the ones who are experiencing that example that's being put in front of them. So that list, it's great to see those players there. It's always very good to see your star players also have leadership type of roles so that that they're interested in more than just themselves. So again, that list that you just put on there, that's going to be among the very top guys that are on the roster this season in terms of their contributions. So it's leading by example on and off the field.
Yeah, and you just kind of look at that lineup there. It looks like about 9 of those guys were one-time transfers, and that just, I think, really speaks to what Kenny Dillingham has built. Some of these guys were kind of day one, and just in the coming days and weeks after he took the job. Some of the players that they targeted to bring in. Now we're seeing that have been such key roles in getting the success of last year. Now establishing that standard, that foundation of what Sun Devil football is going to be now and in the future.
And Brad, we are accelerating toward the start of the football season for the Sun Devils. And if you are jonesing for a new vehicle, just like you're jonesing for ASU to finally kick off this 2025 season, well, then your first and only call needs to be to Jones Auto Group. Jones has been servicing the state of Arizona and the Sun Devil community for more than 50 years with multiple locations across the state. And it is a fact, Jones Auto Group was the first and the original provider of vehicles to Sun Devil student athletes for NIL purposes. And it is your support that enables them to continue to do that year after year. In addition to their unwavering support of Sun Devil athletics, Jones Auto Group offers unique tax advantages due to their dealership locations that can save you big time money. Doesn't get much better than that when you're shopping for a new vehicle. You get to work with a fellow Sun Devil, someone who will treat you like family, and you can potentially experience some unique and significant savings. So here's what you got to do. Contact Parker Jones, not just the owner and GM, but a third-generation Arizona State alum, and just like you, a die-hard Sun Devil fan. Here's his cell number. Put it in your phone for the next time that you need a new ride, and if that's right now, hit him up. 602-881-8998. Again, that's 602-881-8998. You can browse their inventory of new and pre-owned vehicles at jonesautocenters.com. Jones Auto Group, Arizona's best since 1970. So, Brad, we're about to jump into our very first, what we usually call Know Your Enemy segment of the 2025 football season. But every time NAU is on the schedule, it's really not knowing your enemy. It's getting to know an old friend. And we welcome back longtime friend of the show, our good buddy, voice of the Lumberjacks, Mitch Strohman. Mitch, my man, thank you for joining us once again.
Joe, Brad, the enemy is here in the house. No, I'm just kidding. But it's great to be back with you guys, and great to have us getting ready to play ASU for the first time in a couple of years, and also even better just to get college football season started with week 1, right? I mean, this is what it's all about. Best time of the year.
We got a little taste last week and some Big 12 action for those of us paying attention to that. But yeah, now this is when the full thing gets started. And, Mitch, my friend, as we get started to have this conversation, I am thrilled to inform you that we're going to be talking about 2 nationally ranked football teams,
Right.
2 teams fresh off playoff appearances in their respective subdivisions of play. I think back to the last time that we spoke, and for both these teams, especially ASU, times are very different now than they were just a few years ago, and that's a very good feeling here, and I'm sure it echoes the same in Flagstaff.
Amen to that. And to go off of your first point, it's kind of a bit of a historic matchup on Saturday night on the field at Mountain America Stadium, because as you said, two teams, ASU, NAU, both ranked in the top 20 in the FBS and FCS respectively, Joe. And that will mark the first time ever that the Sun Devils and the Lumberjacks will face each other on the gridiron as ranked teams in the top 25. So kind of cool there. That adds a little bit of sauciness to the matchup between these two teams. And it's just so awesome to be able to come down and play ASU and also the true enemy of Sun Devil Nation, U of A, an opportunity to have a football game against an in-state school, a bus trip, an opportunity to showcase NAU's football athletes and football program to everyone in the state. So really looking forward to this.
Amen. And before we talk about this week's game, let's take actually a few steps back in Lumberjack football. Chris Ball obviously has not been with the program for a couple of years now, but he was a guy that was, highly regarded in Tempe for his time as an assistant coach at ASU. And I think a lot of Sun Devil fans were keeping an eye on the Lumberjacks when he was in charge. Obviously, they had Aaron Pflugrad on staff, who was the absolute fan favorite out here. For ASU fans who might have been keeping tabs on things, what was it that just didn't necessarily materialize and have his tenure turn out as well as expected in Flagstaff?
First of all, Chris Ball's a great guy. One of my all-time favorite human beings that I've ever been around, to be perfectly honest with you. Him and his family. It was very sad to see him go. To answer your question, the answer is wins. There weren't enough wins. And this is now very clearly, even at the FCS level, it's a business. And the wins did not materialize, nor did the playoff appearances that were hoped for when Chris Ball was hired out of the University of Memphis. And be honest with you, a lot of people were sad to see Chris go, but at the same time, I think there was also a general feeling of we need to get this football program winning more football games in Flagstaff. The university and the athletic department has invested tens of millions of dollars into facility upgrades, program upgrades. They're investing heavily in the program. And when you do that in this business, you expect results, and results equate to wins. So I think that was probably the key issue.
Speaking of wins, the new guy sure came in and got a bunch of them right off the bat. So what did new head coach Brian Wright do to engineer, such an impressive turnaround in year one?
Yeah, right, Brad. I mean, that was some kind of year last year. Arguably, and you can really make this argument historically, the best first year ever for a first-year head coach of football at NAU. 8 wins, a playoff appearance, first playoff appearance and the most wins in about a decade. And more importantly, a brand of football on the field that the fans really enjoyed watching. We were able to bring bodies into the Walkup Sky Dome, even in November, when we have traditionally over the years, and then, as you mentioned, I've been here for a while, those games in November tend to kind of get sparse in terms of fans in the Sky Dome, and not last year. There were fans right up to the season finale in the Walkup Sky Dome, and it was a real remarkable turnaround, but not surprising. It just surprised me how quickly it happened. The turnaround I expected. And I've said this to a couple of people this week, guys. You look at Brian Wright's resume coming into Flagstaff, and how would you not expect that kind of coach with that kind of background and that kind of success wherever he's been to be able to come in and rebuild a program? The surprising part was the timing, how fast it took, because he rebuilt the program. And I use the analogy of a house. I mean, the house, which represents NAU football's program, was basically raised to the foundation, not to the studs, to the foundation. And Brian Wright brought in a staff that had to rebuild from literally square one. and rebuild everything all the way up to the very top of the roof and the shingles. And it was a very serious and significant rebuild of the program and the roster and the paradigm of what the program of NAU football looks like. And to get that kind of success in literally one calendar year was surprising in terms of the speed in which it happened.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, if I'm not mistaken, he's got a perfect record as a head coach at the FBS level, as an interim coach at Florida Atlantic when the whole Carpolini saga went down there years ago.
Remember that? That was crazy.
I didn't even I remember it, but I didn't connect the names. You know, when I was doing research this week, I'm like, all right, I remember that situation there, but I didn't know that it was right. And it reminds me what Signetti from Indiana, what did he say last year? You know, I win, Google me or something like that. I think he could pretty much do the same for Wright. I mean, that guy's a winner for sure. That's awesome to see. So
no doubt. I mean, everybody thought he was going to be named the permanent head coach. He went 4-0 and didn't get the job. So yeah, perfect 4-0 at the FBS level.
There you go. Now, obviously around here in Tempe, we've seen how one great year can really revitalize the fan base and it can really improve the culture within the program. I mean, that's something that ASU and Kenny Dillingham have really made a hallmark in the last, several months, and player retention, et cetera. They always talk a lot about the program culture. What have you noticed maybe this offseason or since that great year last year as far as the fan support and the internal culture within the program?
Oh, holy buckets, Joe. How much has changed in terms of fan support? It's insane how much it's changed. It literally, over the course of one off season, the fan base of NAU football just went next level and almost instantly. People look for results. People want to see wins. At our level, you have to be relevant. And relevancy at the FCS level is making the playoff tournament. And for us, we hadn't been there for almost a decade. To get there right away just really lit the fire underneath the fans, the alumni, former football players. It just felt different, and so they responded in kind. There's been a significant amount of money raised. I mean, you can look at it from a quantifiable standpoint. Lots of money is coming in from the boosters, from the fans, from the alumni, from former football players. The level of engagement has gone bonkers. Everybody wants to get involved. The coach and his staff put together a kind of a booster type of organization that's called the Timberjacks Club, and they just hit the home run right out of the gate in terms of numbers of people and the dollars that are coming in and raised for student athletes and for the football program. And it's just been crazy. I say this and I mean it, and I've said it 100 times this week. If I've said it once, there is a buzz around Flagstaff, but there's more than a buzz around Flagstaff. There's a buzz around the state. We're hearing from people in Maricopa County and Pima County and Yuma County, folks that are just wanting to get themselves involved or they're interested in NAU football. So to answer that question, incredible amount of fan engagement, support, excitement from year one in 2024 to this year in 2025. And it took just one winning season and a playoff run. But again, I would also add that the brand of football that's team played last season, it was fun. It was fun to call for me. It was fun to watch. It was fun to be around. And I think everybody's expecting that that's going to take another step upward in this season.
Well, let's talk about that brand of football on the field. And, starting at quarterback, Ty Pennington comes in, wins Big Sky Newcomer of the Year. So, break him down for us. What kind of skill set does he bring to the Lumberjack offense?
He brings a strong leadership. And Brad, I'm glad you mentioned the Big Sky Newcomer of the Year. And he was a Division II transfer, mind you. So he came up from the D2 ranks from Pittsburgh State, where he was a quarterback for his head coach there, Brian Wright, who came to Flagstaff as well. And he brings a toughness, a great situational awareness on the field in terms of commanding his offense. But he also brings that intangible that you just absolutely have to have if you're going to have a championship caliber or a winning quarterback in this day and age in football. He brings that leadership quality in the huddle and in the locker room. I was before we taped this tonight, I was at practice over at the Sky Dome, and I was watching how he was just interacting with the offense off the field. When the ones came off the field and they were gathered on the sideline, guys, just watching him. And, I can be there on the sideline so I can even hear the conversations. And those guys, the O linemen, the tight end, the running backs, the wide receivers, all those guys gathered around him, and he's giving them instruction and motivation. And all of them, to a person, are like locked in on him, locked in. You see that with your quarterback, you've got yourself a great leader and a great quarterback to lead you to potential championships.
Really excited about this quarterback matchup because a lot of the descriptions about Pennington very similar to Sam Levitt. I think they've got a lot of similar qualities. Should be a great matchup. Mountain America Stadium this weekend. How about the weapons at Pennington's disposal? Running back Seth Cromwell, wide receiver Colby Katzis are some of the top returners statistically. What do they bring to the table, and what are some other names that we need to keep an eye out for on Saturday night?
Well, Joe, the running back room is probably the deepest running back room that I have ever seen in my 29, 30 years of doing this with NAU football. It goes 5 deep, and every one of them can take significant amounts of snaps in the course of the game because they're that good. Seth Cromwell is RB1, hands down. Tough kid. Can go between the tackles, Joe, but he's really good at picking his spots and finding those holes, anticipating where that hole might open up on the offensive line, and then has that quick burst of speed to get right through there and get through the gap and maybe get into the second or the third level and start doing some fancier stuff, right? Little footwork action. He is outstanding. Fun running back to watch. And again, another Division II transfer, by the way. And it's interesting because you don't see a ton of D2 guys be able to have success at the Division I level. We've got several, including Seth Cromwell and Ty Pennington. Wide receiver room is exceptionally deep as well. You mentioned Colby Katzis, D2 transfer, also from Pittsburgh State in Kansas, where he was a teammate of Ty Pennington. He was a wide receiver for Brian Wright. See the pipeline from Pittsburgh, Kansas to the mountain up here in Flagstaff, Arizona. You're starting to kind of see there's a little bit of a pipeline there. But he's a really good, solid possession receiver, runs great routes, great hands. But he's been joined in the big group, the initial group of wide receivers on the field by a former Pac-12 guy, transfer out of Stanford, Jason Raines. He's got the big boy FBS Power 4 body. And he has really shown a lot of promise in preseason camp. And he's the type of guy that you can throw the ball high to, and he can get up off the ground with his height at about 6'4", and great leaping ability. Fun kid to watch. Keep an eye on that guy, number 8, Jason Raines. Offensive line is just solid. A lot of veterans coming back from last season, guys, and just a handful, physical, big. They do match up size-wise pretty well with big boy programs in the FBS, and they're very well coached. Offensively, the team has some really, really good weapons. Also keep an eye on our starting tight end. He's getting an opportunity this season with an injury to who would have been our tight end number 1, who's out for the season, a guy by the name of Jeter Purdy. And Jeter Purdy has really had a great camp as well. He's a big body, can catch that football, but he can definitely block on the O-line. Good group of players under a very, very good coaching staff on the offensive side. Because last season, Brian Wright, who is Mr. Offensive Guru and a former quarterback when he played, he was head coach, he was offensive coordinator, and he was quarterback coach in year 1. He has distributed and assigned some of those duties to one of his assistant coaches, Brian Larson. He has taken over the OC duties for NAU football. And, the transition to that, I think, has given Coach Wright the opportunity to do more than just focus on calling plays, sequencing plays as the offensive coordinator. And it has shown in camp going into the opener at ASU how the offense, it just looks more polished, I think is a good word to use, from last year to this year.
You mentioned that the Lumberjacks playing a fun, exciting brand of football. So, break it down for us. What will the Sun Devil defense see from NAU from a schematic perspective?
Well, I'm not going to give that away. You're not going to get any schematics out of me, no matter what you offer me here on this program. But I like that effort quite a bit, guys. In all honesty, you'll see an offense that's not afraid to try to stretch the field with the long ball. But look, I mean, Brian Wright's been pretty open and clear in his conversations publicly leading up to the game on Saturday against ASU that, part of the offensive philosophy for NAU is to try to kind of shorten the game just a little bit, make it so that Mr. Levitt and company and that high-powered, big-time offense that the Sun Devils has fewer snaps on the offense than they would care to have. So you do that how? Control the football. Have that offensive possession last longer than a 3 and out. Okay. So I would not be surprised to see the Lumberjacks offensively on Saturday try to get a run game going against ASU and make it at least at a minimum credible enough for the Sun Devil defense to have to kind of be thinking about as they are looking at the offense from the other side of the football. So don't be shocked to see an offense that Ty Pennington loves to get it downfield. He loves to stretch the field. We got great wide receivers, great pass catchers on the edges, good speed. Love that aggressiveness. But I imagine we might try to see some of the run game show up on Saturday night at Mountain America Stadium.
So moving over to defense, I see that there's some notable departures through graduation, some transfer portal, including a few to the FBS level. How has NAU reloaded from those departures, and who are some defensive names we should keep an eye out for?
I tell you what, the back line is just solid. The whole of the back line, they're very, very talented and have the size that you want at the Division I level, whether it's FBS or FCS in terms of cover on the third level. But I think personally, the strength of the defense under defensive coordinator Adam Clark is the front line, period. And you're going to see some big guys, space eaters, athletic, physical, just aggressive guys up there. Micah Carrion, number 50, number 44, Fo Ho Ching, who's a really versatile guy. He's a starter on the defensive line, guys, but he will also, you might see him on the offensive side of the football as a fullback. In fact, he caught a touchdown pass as a fullback out of the backfield last season. And he's very good at that as a defensive lineman. Another guy by the name of Alani Ma'afu, number 6. Again, physically big, space takers, strong, not afraid to go head-to-head with the big boys of the FBS level. Very, very, very physical up front. And Adam Clark, our defensive coordinator, just as he's like a mad scientist out there. I mean, you never really know what he's going to throw at you from down to down. He might have 3 down linemen, 4. He might bring blitz. He might not. He might drop guys back into coverage. He might zone blitz you. He's not afraid to blitz from anywhere on the field and when you're least expecting it. He's difficult to track and predict because he's not afraid to just kind of go all over the map in terms of what he's going to deploy defensively from play to play. And I think that was what made NAU's defense last season really, I think, the kind of the silent strength of NAU's 8-win playoff appearance season. We had one of the top defenses in the Big Sky Conference statistically, and it came in the first year of a complete rebuild of the defensive side of the football. So Micah Carrion up front, Alani Ma'afu and Fo Ho Cheng. Keep an eye on those big boys up front.
So I'm checking out this two deep that I got here from the game notes. It looks like there are some pretty big names at linebacker that are absent from the two deep for this week. Amon Allen and Brandon Wong. I know they're two of the top returning defenders for the Lumberjacks. What can you tell us about their availability for this weekend?
Not available. They're not going to be playing. Amon Allen, unfortunately, is out for the season. Brandon Wong is not out for the season. He'll be back in a few games, but he will not be playing on Saturday. And that's not a secret at all for NAU football. Both of them trying to rehab from some significant injuries. So you won't see those guys in the linebacking room on the field. And that's part of the question, how the linebacker's going to be. There are a lot of bodies there, but those two guys are out. And so how will they respond in this season, starting things off against the 11th ranked team in the country? Should be very interesting to watch.
Now, you mentioned that the NAU defense likes to present a lot of different looks, being multiple up front. What are some other things that they like to do that really have kind of led to their success over the last year or so?
Yeah, Brad, again, it's that unpredictability. I'm just, and I get asked about the defense a lot, and it's hard to predict what you're going to see again from down to down. And I think it's fun. For me, it's fun because it's like, you can't ask, what's your base set for the NAU Lumberjack defense? You guys run a 4-3, you run a 3-3, you run a 3-4. No, none of that. We don't run any base set. We run, and you could say multiple, but that doesn't even capture it enough. There are so many different looks that Adam Clark gives you as the defensive coordinator. And they're hard to track and predict, at least as far as I'm concerned. Now, the experts on Kenny Dillingham's staff may be able to track down some patterns to that, or maybe, Chat GPT can, or AI can, but I sure as hell can't. And a lot of other offensive coordinators last season couldn't either, which was why it was one of the better defenses in the Big Sky Conference in 24.
NAU is certainly no stranger to pulling off an in-state FBS win. Of course,
still thank you for that one. Yep.
You guys got to love that. I mean,
goodness,
just asking that question has just got to give you guys goose pimples, because who we beat.
When we had you on that first game from the season thereafter, and we were able to run that clip of your call at the end of the game, I mean, that was like it was ASU beating U of A down there. So everybody was thrilled about that.
I love it.
So certainly, not unprecedented, and that's going to be certainly a square on the minds of the Lumberjack players and staff. But, what other things do you think the team is looking to accomplish on Saturday night to set themselves up for the rest of their season, with a season, of course, with high expectations?
Yeah, Brad, first and foremost, probably numbers 1 through 4 or 5 or so, all the same item. No major injuries, please. Nobody gets hurt, seriously, period. And also for ASU, by the way, no major injuries. It's week 1, guys. Let's keep our players on the field for a while before we start seeing the injury bugs starting to fly around and sting us. Okay, let's have a clean week 1 game where you'll have some bumps and bruises, a couple of minor things, but nothing major, and God forbid, nothing catastrophic. Secondly, NAU is coming down to win the football game. I'm going to say that. I don't have to say it. Brian Wright said it at his press conference yesterday. He says it to anyone who asks him. He says very clearly and very openly, we are coming to win the football game. We're not coming to play well. We're not coming to show well. We're not coming to not get, humiliated or none of that stuff. And that mentality from the top of the food chain in the program and the head coach is filtered all the way down to the GAs on the staff. They all believe in their ability and the possibility of winning the football game. Now, look, we're huge underdogs. I get that. And that's not a surprise. We're 28.5-point dogs in this game, and that there's a reason for that. It's because ASU is the defending Big 12 champs, and they're ranked at number 11 in the country. and they damn near went to the national title game here a year ago. So it's like, come on, you guys are really, really good. It's the best football team, and I'm going to say this bluntly. This will be the best football team that NAU has ever played in a game. Ever. Okay. And that says something about what ASU has going on in Tempe with Kenny Dillingham and staff. And it's a great opportunity to have a ton of Arizona kids on this roster go to home base. Most of the Arizona kids right there from the Valley of the Sun, right there in Maricopa County. A lot of those Arizona kids very likely, in fact, guaranteed, might have played head-to-head against some of the Arizona kids that are on the ASU roster in high school. I mean, it's an opportunity to showcase yourself as an Arizona high school graduate and an Arizona high school football product on the best showcase platform, period. That field in Tempe against a top 11 football team. So the mentality is we want to go down there and win the game. And by golly, if we can not get hurt also, that's even better.
So looking up ahead of at the schedule for the Lumberjacks beyond this week, that thing is a beast. There are some tough teams, several top 8, top 12 caliber FCS teams. So after this week, how ready do you feel that NAU is to take on those sort of challengers and, push toward returning to the playoffs?
Yeah, that's an intriguing question, Joe. You make me think a little bit about the schedule here. So after the ASU game, we come home for our home opener and the running of the freshmen, great tradition up here for the home opener for football against a team in Utah Tech out of St. George, Utah, which has transitioned themselves up to the FCS ranks and is now on the verge next season in 26, joining the Big Sky Conference. So it's kind of a conference, non-conference type of matchup between a team that geographically is not that far from us as the crow flies. It's separated by the Grand Canyon. And we are excited to have Utah Tech join the Big Sky because it gives us a natural geographic rival for NAU football. Then we have a whopper in the Sky Dome against a playoff team from a year ago, defending Southland Conference champions, preseason ranked number 4 in the country in the FCS, the Cardinals of the University of the Incarnate Word, one of the best offensive programs in the country at the FCS. We played them in San Antonio, Texas last year. We were in that game in the third quarter, got a pick 6 and some turnovers that kind of get us behind the 8 ball. And we really felt like we could have won that game last year in San Antonio. And I can tell you that is a game that everyone on this NAU football program is like, they've circled that date. They want to take that team down this time in our house in Flagstaff. And then we play another soon to be Big Sky member next year in Southern Utah University in Cedar City. And that's an intriguing kind of a juicy matchup, guys, because the playoff selection committee from a year ago, NAU was essentially the last team in as an at-large team. SUU, Southern Utah University, was the last team out. So there's a little bit of juice with that issue. And again, they're coming into the Big Sky Conference as Utah Tech is next year, and then it's Big Sky time. And we're a murderer's row in the Big Sky Conference. So we kind of look at ourselves along with the Missouri Valley Football Conference as the Big Ten and the SEC of FCS football, those two conferences. And you go through the Big Sky Conference, it is a challenge. 4 home games, 4 away. We've got the defending national runners-up, Montana State, coming to Flagstaff. Several playoff teams from a year ago, UC Davis, University of Idaho. We've got Idaho State and Pocatello, a team that darn near beat UNLV in week 0 last Saturday in Vegas.
And that Idaho game, I'm told, if I saw correctly on your interview with Hode Rubino of DevilsDigest.com, that will be a nationally televised affair, correct?
Bingo. Yeah, Joe, great. Thank you for bringing that up. I actually kind of neglected to say that. Yeah, that's on Halloween night, Joe, in the Sky Dome. Friday night, late 7:30 kickoff on ESPN2. And we're trying to figure this out. It goes back beyond when I got here nearly 30 years ago. We can't think of a time we've had national TV coverage for a home football game in Flagstaff on either ESPN or ESPN2 or any other national linear channel. And so that is really, really exciting. Trick or treat in the Sky Dome with the Idaho Vandals, man. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, Mitch, my friend, we always appreciate your insight. Looking forward to a good one in Mountain America Stadium, and all the best to you on the calls this weekend and beyond. And if the information is correct, I think 2028 might be the next time that we're reconvening for this conversation.
I think you're right about that, Joe, and look forward to that then. But for now, it's great talking to you, Brad. Good to see you, and thank you so much for having me on. It's always a treat to join you guys, and let's have a good one on Saturday down there in Tempe.
Now, before we break down ASU versus the Lumberjacks, obviously a big part of this game is going to be protecting the quarterback, make sure everybody's safe. And just like that needs to be done on the field on game day, folks, you need to make sure that you do that in your homes. Protect yourself, protect your family, protect your home from unwanted pests. Do so with a company you trust. There's no better way to go than a company of fellow Sun Devils, an ASU alumni owned and operated Nice Pest Company. For those of you watching at home, you can see rocking one of their t-shirts right here. Nice Pest Company serves residences and businesses all over the valley. And check this out, Sun Devil fans. You can get your first service for just $42. And best of all, 100% of those proceeds will be donated by Nice Pest Company to ASU's Sun Angel NIL Collective. So support those who support what you love. Give your business to fellow Sun Devils with an incredible reputation who, like you, want to do their part to help Sun Devil athletics to thrive. Nice Pest Company has sent well over 100,000 bugs to their final resting place. And with more than 200 five-star Google reviews, you can rest easy knowing you and your family are in great hands. So whether you've got scorpions, bed bugs, roaches, whatever sorts of varmints and critters you got going on, or if you just want to make sure that they don't make a visit to your place of living, you got to let Nice Pest Company do the dirty work for you so you can have the peace of mind that you deserve. It's always a nice day to support the Sun Devils, and with Nice Pest Company, it's always a nice day to be bug-free. Check them out online at nicepest.com for a free quote. Be sure to follow them on Twitter and Instagram at Nice Pest Company. All right, Brad, we got to dust off this part of the show.
Let's go
for an actual preview of a game of American football. Gonna be happening. It feels like it's been a while, although it's actually been the least amount of time since a Sun Devil football game that there's been in like 30 years, technically speaking. But I think that just left all fans wanting a whole heck of a lot more. The time for talking is over. For all the prognostications, you put that to the side, all the preseason rankings and All-America lists and watch lists and this and that, which has just been fun to go through for the last few months. You can officially put that aside. The ball's going to get kicked off. The season's about to start, and it all gets started with ASU against Northern Arizona University. It's a 52nd all-time meeting between ASU and NAU. Sun Devils hold a 23-14-4 edge. 4 ties in the series. That's something.
Wow. Interesting. Also, I should jump in. I thought you were leading into we're going to dust off to a reference to the weather events of yesterday as we record this.
Well, there you go. Yeah, there were some wonderful storms. I enjoyed just sitting outside and just kind of letting some of it transpire over there in Tempe. It was a nice little night.
Yeah, and of course they had the ASU football tweeted out that viral clip of the haboob hitting over the stadium. But also the kind of funny thing is apparently, as Graham Rossini tweeted out, that apparently they had just cleaned the seats in the stadium that day. So just like, ooh, not great.
My goodness. Well, hopefully that's all
dust
of
off
it.
Those, yeah.
Hopefully that is the only haboob experience that we have for the weekend, and we don't have a redo of a couple years ago with a multi-hour, halftime delay.
When I had to do live weather reports for our newscast, and they had us go from the safety of the press box, and I don't want to bag on my employer, but Julia Lopez and I had to do them right next to the field, next to a metal fence.
Well, that is...
We survived.
There you go. And if you didn't, then you'd probably get superpowers, right? That's how these sort of things work.
Yeah, there we go.
All right. Well, I guess we can start talking about a football game. But the weather that was a nice thing to see. Anything that's in double digits, I'll take that. So as we mentioned, 52nd all-time meeting. There at one point was a more than 50-year gap between matchups between these teams from 1950 to 2003. Now, since 2003, as folks know, ASU's played NAU. Every few seasons. They're 7-0 against the Lumberjacks in that span. Most recently, a 40-3 win to start the 2022 season. Just to give you some facts and figures from the history of this matchup, the most recent meeting where ASU did not win was a 13-13 tie in 1946, and the most recent Lumberjack win in the series was a 19-13 outcome in Flagstaff in 1938. Outside the seasons affected by World War II in the 1940s, ASU and NAU met each other annually from 1924 to 1950, and from 1931 to 1953, both programs were members of the Border Conference together. So if y'all didn't know that, there was a period of time many years ago, ASU, NAU were conference mates.
Oh, that's fun.
That is fun.
Yeah, fun fact.
And as you heard in our interview with our great friend Mitch Strohman, last season was a special one for the Lumberjacks, just as it was a special one for the Sun Devils. NAU had a 3-4 start to begin the year, but they ripped off 5 straight wins to wrap up the regular season, qualified for the FCS playoffs, ultimately losing to Abilene Christian, the first playoff appearance for NAU since 2017. The man at the helm, as we talked about quite a bit with Mitch, Brian Wright. After former ASU assistant Chris Ball was let go after the 2023 season, Wright was hired away from D2 Pittsburgh State. He had a 33-8 record in 3 full seasons, plus that COVID year at Pittsburgh State, which is in the state of Kansas. It is not in
the
Pennsylvania.
Gorillas, I believe.
There you go. I'm sure there are a lot of gorillas in Kansas, so that makes sense. And he had top 5 rankings in 2022 and 2023 at the D2 level. And as we talked about, he's 4-0. He has a perfect record as a FBS level head coach, as he was the interim head coach in 2013 for Florida Atlantic after Carl Pelini was, I guess we could say, unceremoniously encouraged to step down from his position. Now, as we turn the page into 2025, they are a top 20 team at the FCS level, ranked 18th or 19th, depending on which poll you look at. So as we heard Mitch Strohman talk about, I mean, this is essentially an unprecedented matchup in terms of the superlatives that are attached to both teams in this game.
Yeah, and I know that ASU fans, by and large, don't hold any ill will for the neighbors up north, and so it's good to see them, get back on the schedule a little bit. So I think it's a couple years until they meet again, but there's definitely some future dates on the horizon. But Brian Wright being able to revitalize this program in a really quick manner, kind of some similarities to what Kenny's been doing here in Tempe, and just really good because the kind of the FCS level, there's some really good football. The Big Sky Conference is a very good conference, and so it's one of those things where it's kind of cool. You see all that history you mentioned, first time ranked versus ranked, and so it's going to be interesting to see what this up and coming Lumberjack team can do.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit more about some of the players that we went over with Mitch Strohman. Starting at the top at quarterback, Ty Pennington. Last year he had 2,288 passing yards with 13 touchdowns, just 2 interceptions. He completed a little over 65% of his passes. He ranked 23rd nationally in completion percentage among FCS quarterbacks. He was the 2024 Big Sky Newcomer of the Year. As we discussed, he followed head coach Brian Wright and transferred to NAU from Division II Pittsburgh State prior to last season. Also showed some wheels in 2024, rushed for 437 net yards on 104 carries with 7 touchdowns. He didn't throw an interception until his 10th game of the year last season, and he enters this year with some high expectations, like his counterpart in Sam Levitt, as he talking about Pennington, the preseason all-conference quarterback for the Big Sky Conference, kind of like how Sam Levitt is for the Big 12. So there are some similarities between these two quarterbacks, and Pennington he's a guy that can just play, whether it's the D2 level or the FCS level or playing against a nationally ranked FBS team like ASU. He is a very skilled quarterback.
Yeah, and you mentioned like those parallels, in terms of a guy that could be a dual threat quarterback that likes to attack and push the ball downfield. Yet at the same point, does a really good job of limiting mistakes and not turning the ball over. And if you're a FCS team that's 4 touchdown underdog, the recipe to getting an upset win is you don't turn the ball over. And he's got some experience on the offensive line ahead of him. We'll talk about the weapons here in a moment, but overall, now he's heading into his second year in the scheme. He has that comfort level, and just like Sam Levis heading into his second year in the offense here in Tempe, and so it's going to be an offense that's has some ability to run the ball, also take the shots, and put some stress on a defense down the field.
Now moving on to running back, as you heard, and similar to ASU, NAU figures to employ a series of rushers in this game and throughout the season. Their top 2 performers who return are starter Seth Cromwell and backup Darvon Hubbard. To give you the tape on Cromwell, he's a former Missouri Western State transfer. Again, as you heard, another D2 transfer for NAU. Last year for the Lumberjacks, he was the team's leading rusher with 681 yards on 124 carries, a real solid about 5.5 yard per carry average. He had 9 touchdowns on the ground, also caught 16 passes for 65 yards. And he really ended the season on a hot note. He had 3 100-yard rushing games, and they all came in the final 3 regular season games. So just as the Lumberjacks were firing up there, he was doing the same. Hubbard, a pretty interesting story. He initially signed with Texas A&M out of Surprise's Willow Canyon High School, later transferred to Temple before relocating to NAU. Last year, he ran 99 times for 408 yards with 4 touchdowns, along with 16 catches for 128 yards. So as we heard, even in a game where you think a team from the FCS level would need to air it out and try to eat up as much yardage as possible, or maybe catch the defense slipping for some big plays, as we heard in our Know Your Enemy segment, you can still expect NAU to probably run the ball quite a bit this weekend.
And Cromwell's a big dude, a powerful back who can test that interior of the Sun Devil defense. But I think that's a situation where ASU is going to be in pretty good shape. Even though we talked all offseason long about the pass rush issues, ASU's run defense was pretty good, and they were battle tested last year, facing a slate of really good Big 12 ground games. And of course, you have led by the guy in the middle in CJ Fight, the linebacker group I'm really a big fan of. But NAU is going to be trying to shorten that game, but I think ASU right there, it's going to be a good matchup there. I think that they're going to be looking to kind of corral those the ground attack led by Cromwell.
Yeah, and so in the past game, NAU does have to replace some key figures. They lose 3 of their top 4 receivers from last season, including a dynamic tight end that they had. Leading the way among returning players is Colby Katzis, who, like Pennington at quarterback, transferred in from Pittsburgh State prior to last season. In his debut season with the Lumberjacks, Katzis got 35 passes for 498 yards with 2 touchdowns to rank second on the team in all 3 of those categories. Elsewhere, Isaiah Eastman caught 20 passes for 238 yards with a score last year. But he and Katzis are the only returning Lumberjack wide receivers to have caught more than 4 passes for the team last year. Another name to keep in mind, as you heard about, 6'4" Jason Raines, who transferred to NAU from Stanford. Moving along the offensive line, Lumberjacks will have to replace starting center and 2-time second-team All-Big Sky Conference honoree Johnny Bodorf, along with their starting left guard from last year, a name familiar to many Sun Devil fans, Ralph Frias, someone who endured some significant medical issues at ASU, and he moved on. I think he transferred a couple times. I think he went to Utah State first and ended up, I believe he started every game for the playoff-bound Lumberjacks last year. So great for Ralph, someone that I know a lot of fans and folks around the program really wanted to work out for him here. It was great for him to end his college career in a high note.
Yeah, and so even though they still have some key departures, some good experience, and also some transfer additions on that O line. So it'll again going back to one of the things that they're going to be looking at is that ASU pass rush. How disruptive can they be? A lot of those folks, the Clayton Smiths and Justin Watleys of that line have looked really, really good. Can it translate on game day, though? I mean, they got a good quarterback there. You don't want to give him too much time. Also, you mentioned Jason Raines, the Stanford wide receiver transfer. Huge body guy. I mean, it'll be interesting. I think that Keith Abney is probably not looking looking forward to not having to cover Jordan Tyson every snap. But that's a big challenge. The size difference could be something to keep an eye on. So I think it'll be a pretty good matchup on Saturday.
Yeah, and we'll go through our keys, obviously, to round out this. You all know the routine, how we do things here, but just kind of sum up the offense. I mean, you've got a really efficient quarterback in Pennington, someone that can, move the ball with his feet, takes care of the ball. Again, quite a bit of likeness to Sam Levitt and the qualities that he showed throughout last year and what helped ASU be such a successful team. A deep group of running backs with some experience there, some talented pass catchers. I know that our guy Mitch Strohman very high on them, but they do need to get acclimated because there are some just new faces, new bodies to the lineup, and a couple offensive linemen that they need to replace. So we'll just see if there are any sort of growing pains in those areas in game number 1 against ASU. Now we move over to the defensive side. As we talked about, there are a lot of top tier players that they do have to replace departures through graduation and the transfer portal. But we'll break down those who are, some of the most name-worthy players, some that you heard about before. Micah Carrion, he had 46 tackles. He's their nose tackle, 46 stops, a share of the team high with 7 tackles for loss. Last year, he was an honorable mention All Big Sky pick last season, and he was one of 2 Lumberjack defenders to be named to the 2025 preseason All Big Sky team. You also heard about Fo Ho Ching, 37 tackles as a defensive lineman last year, 4 tackles for loss with the sack. We also heard that he might show up a little bit on offense as well. So there's, some high praise for the defensive line. Now, of course, they will be tested. ASU's offensive line, we're hoping is coming together well with Ben Coleman at center, but the mixture of Sam Levitt, his passing options and the running options, that defensive line for NAU certainly will be very tested.
Yeah, and so we'll talk about the keys of the game, but it's going to be a very good opportunity for the Sun Devil offensive line. One thing I'll be looking forward to is how that ground game really attacks that defense. You heard Mitch Strohman talk about the issues at to the second level of that defense at linebacker. Some of the more notable names that will not be in the lineup on Saturday night. And but overall, this is a really good a good defense that was one of the best in the conference a season ago, and Adam Clark, bringing in multiple fronts, just kind of that way to kind of bring some chaos. You never know exactly where maybe the pressure's coming from. They do have, despite some of the departures, still bring back 12 guys with over 100 snaps from a season ago. But I think it's going to obviously all start up front. ASU should have a sizable advantage there, but that's not to overlook. Some of the very talented and productive players they have along the defensive line.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how things go at linebacker. Just to kind of give you some more depth. The team's top returning defender statistically is Ammon Allen. He was an honorable mention All Big Sky pick last year. A Highland High School graduate, actually began his college career at the University of Arizona. Last season, he posted 66 tackles, including 5.5 for loss with 2 sacks and a forced fumble. He is NAU's leader among returning players in tackles and sacks. But unfortunately, as you heard, it sounds like he'll be out for the season. In terms of preseason recognition, linebacker Brandon Wong joins defensive lineman Micah Carrion as the only 2 preseason all-conference honorees in the Big Sky for NAU. He had 43 tackles, including 4.5 for a loss last year, where he was an honorable mention all-conference pick. As you heard, he's not expected to miss ample time, but he won't be out there on the field against ASU. So if you have those 2 big players who will be absent from the lineup at linebacker, you got to think that if ASU's running backs can just get through that first line, if the offensive line can hold up, then you're just not going to be without your star players there for NAU. So you like ASU's odds in the run game if the offensive line can hold their ground.
And also like their odds in the pass game as well. There are some talented players in the secondary for NAU, but they did lose a lot of experience from last year's squad. And we've talked about the improved depth of the Sun Devil wide receiver room. It's not just the Jordan Tyson show anymore. So it's going to be a stern test for the NAU defense, and we'll see what Adam Clark's able to kind of dial up back there to give him some help.
Yeah, and though as we heard, I don't think you can truly peg alignment on this defense, though, in the depth chart. So that tells us what we need to know there. In the secondary, a name to keep in mind is starting cornerback Mikael Greer, NAU's team leader last season with 4 interceptions, also had 17 tackles in 13 games. So now before we get to our keys and most importantly, how we predict this ball game is going to shake out, you got to get subscribed to devilsdigest.com if you aren't already. Obviously, as I'm sure you know by now, you can get content for both rivals.com and the On3 network with that subscription. Just limitless information and content for you to process, whether you're a Sun Devil fan or whatever team you support or whoever you want to learn about across the country. Well worth the investment of a subscription. And obviously, a subscription to Devil's Digest not only gets you the content on that site, but across the networks as well. And the content is flying in a variety of forms. You're going to get all you can handle on Sun Devil football. Perfect supplement to add on to what you listen to and watch with us here. And then obviously, as the school year goes on, get a lot of coverage of men's basketball, baseball. You get some hockey out there as well. So always a good time to be tuned in and locked in and a subscriber of devilsdigest.com. And as we're getting ready to kick off this season, it is the ideal time to get in the huddle there on Devil's Digest. So, Brad, let's kick off those keys. What's number one for you?
Pass rush. I mean, I've been out there watching these guys go at it in fall camp. We've seen the offseason transformations, Clayton Smith, Justin Watley, how Elijah O'Neal looks, even guys interior. With making Brian Ward getting creative with his blitzes, bringing step pressures from other levels. Hopefully, you don't have to use all of those. So I really just want to see that defensive line just get after just how that 4 down front is able to disrupt Ty Pennington. Obviously, you have a good quarterback, doesn't make a whole lot of mistakes, but even the best quarterbacks, you put some pressure in their face, they're going to get routed a little bit and do some things that a defense wants them to do. So I just really want to see how ASU's pass rush, and presumably kind of one of the more favorable matchups on this entire schedule, gets after it after coming off a very, very impressive fall camp.
And that plays right into one of my keys. Essentially, same note, rough Pennington up. Get to the quarterback. I want to see a minimum of 5 sacks in this game, at a minimum. I want to see you causing him to turn the ball over. I know he doesn't do that very much, but in this sort of matchup, ASU should have the tools and the athletes at all the positions on defense to be able to limit the time that Pennington has to throw, the windows that he has to throw into. And if he happens to make a bad decision, they should have the athletes, of course, talking about Arizona State, to be able to capitalize on turnovers. So in a ball game like this, again, we've got a lot of respect for this NAU program, but if ASU truly is the number 11 team in the country, if ASU truly is going to be on a path to defend its Big 12 title and reappear in the college football playoff, this is a game where you really need to kind of assert that will on the opposition.
Key number 2 for me, switching over to the offensive side, and Kenny Dillingham has talked about it. He wants to see more explosive plays out of the offense. Last year, the offense, was good. They scored over 30 points a game, but not a ton of just like big, like 40, 50, 60-yard type of plays. I think this offense is better equipped this year to do that. Yeah, obviously you bring back key guys like Jordan Tyson, but then you're adding a Jaron Hamilton. All he did, throughout fall camp was the long bomb touchdowns from Sam Levitt. You have a stable of running backs, and Kyson Brown's got breakaway speed. Raleek Brown certainly does. Other wide receivers can be in that mix as well. I want to see some long, explosive plays. I want to see several big plays, whether they reach end zone or not, 40, 50 plus. That can, because I think this offense is going to be able to, march its way down the field. You have a smart quarterback, doesn't make mistakes. You have a good ground game. But I think that to take that next step forward to, be a team that can make a run in the playoffs, not just show up in the playoffs, you need to be able to strike from all areas of the field. And going up against a defense that is going to be missing a few key players, I think this is a great opportunity for them to get things started on the right foot.
Now, my key as it pertains to the Sun Devil offense is to dominate on the ground and do it with your whole group. I mean, I want to see this run game just really unleash on Northern Arizona to the tune of well in excess of 250 rushing yards, maybe 275. 300 might be pushing a little bit, but that could be on the table as well. And I want to see it across the board. We have a good taste of what Kyson Brown can do. We just don't know too much of what he can do as that top guy, though there's a lot of faith in his ability to be able to perform at that level. Now, beyond that are the ones that I think Sun Devil fans really want to see. Not to say that they don't want to see Kyson Brown. I just think that there's a lot of enthusiasm to see Raleek Brown and to see Kanye Udo, because those are two guys. Obviously, Udo is a first-year Sun Devil. Raleek Brown, we just barely got the slightest taste of what he could do from the time he had last year before the injury. Get those guys involved to a high degree, in the 10 to 12 carry range themselves. But then let it go a little further than that. Get the Jason Browns of the world involved. Maybe the Man Robinsons or Grayson Rigdon. Get these guys involved, especially those true freshmen who, probably, barring something with injuries, probably going to redshirt this year. But as we know, you can play a few games, 4 in the regular season and pretty much all the postseason, still get your red shirt. So this is one of those games where, kind of like last year for Wyoming, though Wyoming's not an FCS team, but in that blowout victory, there are a lot of guys that got action in that game and only in that game. So that could be something that we see transpire if ASU is able to take care of business. So you want to see this entire running back room get a taste of what they can do. And by doing that, obviously, you take less off the shoulder of Sam Levitt, and he doesn't need to run that much. You don't want to see him. I'm not creating another key, but just factoring it in here. By doing that, you can take control of the game over the clock and just make it an easier day than it could otherwise be for Sam Levitt.
If you truly are the number 11 team, a team that has top 10 aspirations, that has playoff aspirations, game's over by halftime. Gotta have it. You don't want this to be a situation where you have to play some meaningful snaps in the third quarter. Maybe might give the offense a drive or two just to get the feel of coming out of halftime or whatever. But the game should be out of question by the break. And I think we'll talk about exactly how we see this playing out. But again, if ASU is who they are, if they're the level of team that they believe that they are, that we think that they might be and have the potential to be, game's done by halftime.
And this NAU team through the years has given ASU some fits.
Mm-hmm.
Games like 2003 and 2006, which I think was like tied going into the fourth quarter or something.
Was that the Sean DeWitty game?
That would have been Sean DeWitty time. There you go. Yep, that was him. And Chris Ballanay, I think, had a big interception that game, if I'm not mistaken.
There's a name.
Yeah. And we've seen that happen. And it's like I almost wanted to like say something, but I didn't want to like cause too much of a stir. Is that there have been some years when ASU plays NAU, and that's a season where a lot's expected of ASU, and it doesn't happen. 2003, I think they were ranked in the preseason. They might have been in 2006. They played them in 2008, which is one of the more disappointing years ASU had in a long time. They played them in 2016. Even, like there are some seasons where that's been the case. Again, I'm not putting that curse on them or anything like that. I'm just saying that NAU has been able to give ASU some scares, even though they haven't defeated the Sun Devils in many, many years. So going to my final key, just to have clean special teams. And that's in every facet that there could be. You're hoping not to, walk your punter out there too much or even your field goal kicker, but in the opportunities that you have, you just need to make the most of them. I'm not saying you got to connect on 70-yard field goals and have 80-yard punts and things like that, but just no shanked punts, no missing field goals from 28 yards or something like that. Special teams coverage is going to be an important thing as well. Just don't let any of these plays get away from you. Have the folks who are very concerned about special teams, and rightfully so, have those people walk away from this game saying, okay, like that's fine. Like, I don't know that there'll be any thrilling outcomes because usually in these games against FCS opponents, I'm not going to say it's certainly not a no-win situation, but when you have a nationally ranked FBS team playing an FCS team, you have to do a lot to keep people happy, and things can happen that can make people unhappy. Sometimes again, they look at it in a little bit of a no-win situation lens, unless you're winning 70-0, which is not too easy to do. So for the special team side of things, just want to walk away from the game saying, okay, like that's fine. There are no concerns there for this particular game.
All right. Prediction time. Joe, how do you see it playing out?
So this is one that, man, you got to know this NAU team is going to be motivated, and they believe in themselves, and they have a coach that is going to continue to lead them to quite a bit of success. I believe that they're in a very difficult conference at the FCS level, but they were able to compete last year and should be able to do so again this year. However, that said, this is an ASU team that is number 11 in the country for a reason. That they're predicted by many to defend their Big 12 title and once again enter the college football playoff. For a reason, for many reasons. This is a talented Sun Devil football team, and just the talent discrepancy and disparity there, that's not the only thing that's on display, but that is a reason to have high confidence in ASU being able to win this game within the realm of what's being predicted. They're about like a 4-touchdown
28.5
favorite there, a little bit there, beyond a 4-touchdown favorite there. And again, those are for reasons. Now, sometimes these games go sideways. We've seen these NAU games, as we mentioned a moment ago, get real testy into the fourth quarter. We've obviously seen ASU in years before last year lose to some group of 5 teams that they, realistically probably shouldn't have lost to. Now then, days are very different in Tempe. So this is a very important game for Sun Devil football because, again, looking at an FCS opponent, there are a lot of fans out there who won't be pleased or will have some sort of complaint to issue unless you beat them 70-0 and allow 0 yards of total offense and, force 15 turnovers, that sort of thing. So ASU has the ability to get the job done and do so in effective fashion. I see the Sun Devils being able to run the ball quite well. Even with if NAU would have been at full staff, then, still would have a lot of confidence in that. But those 2 linebackers missing, I think is going to create some opportunities for ASU in the run game. Sam Levitt can pick his spots. I don't expect him to be too risky, but you can keep it pretty vanilla. But that's a guy that even playing vanilla can make a heck of a lot of plays. We've heard this defense be praised on and over and over and over again throughout this offseason. This is their opportunity to assert what they can do in the ball game. I see this one that just kind of works out as a lot of these FCS games do. I see it being a pretty sizable margin victory for the Sun Devils in a game that doesn't really offer too much drama or concern or, bitten nails in the seats of Mountain America Stadium. To me, I see the Sun Devils winning this ball game 48-17.
All right. So I think this is a game that's going to play out pretty straightforwardly. I think the Sun Devils are a good team. I've been seeing these guys and like throughout spring practices, throughout fall camp, and they're good. And we talked about it in our season preview episode last week where we put our predictions out there. This is a team that I think is really good, is strong in so many key areas, has addressed the areas throughout the offseason where they were a little deficient, has improved depth. You expect your Heisman caliber or Heisman buzz generating quarterback to take a step forward. I think this is something where they've heard the headlines, they've internalized them. I think this is a program culture that is well set up for a team to attack those goals and not be fazed by those goals, to finally maybe help the generation of Sun Devil fans with the PTSD, the post-traumatic Sun Devil disorder, that afraid of good things. And granted, this is an FCS team. It's a good FCS team, a ranked FCS team, but it's an FCS team, and you're the number 11 team in the country. I think to your points, Joe, I think the run game's going to be able to do some good things. I think Kyson Brown, Raleek Brown, Kana Udo are all going to make their mark. I think that Sam Levitt is going to get his campaign off to a good note, and I think the Sun Devil defense is going to be feasting and just really getting after it and just being really happy they're not having to go against the Sun Devil offense. I think this is a game that, to my last key, is going to be done by halftime. I think ultimately ASU pulls out a 52-13 victory over a quality Lumberjack squad.
Now, before we check in with some Sun Devils who will be taking action this Saturday against NAU, got to give you a message from Cactus Sports. While many ASU stores have come and gone, Cactus Sports is a community staple. Founded, owned, and operated by ASU alumni since 1992, every purchase made through Cactus Sports results in royalties that help support Arizona State University. Many of their competitors have been bought out and operated by out-of-state corporations, while Cactus Sports stays locally owned and operated. They consider it a privilege to be able to work together with their guests, alumni, fans, and students who help give input for some of the products Cactus Sports buys. So that if you have good ideas about ASU merchandise, give Cactus Sports a ring. They might put that idea into play. When you purchase from Cactus Sports, not only are you assured of the highest quality officially licensed merchandise, but you also have the satisfaction of knowing that you truly helped support a local Sun Devil-owned small business. Cactus Sports is located at 514 South Mill Avenue in Tempe, open from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday, and Sundays from 10 to 6. Got to get there on game day to shop before the season opener against NAU, but you can also view their full inventory and shop online at cactussports.com with free domestic ground shipping on orders of $75 or more. Be sure to follow Cactus Sports on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Cactus Sports AZ, and on Facebook at facebook.com/CactusSportsAZ.
All right, so let's talk to a couple Sun Devils that'll be playing key roles on Saturday, starting with running back Raleek Brown. All right, so a week out from the opener, how do you think things are going so far for the running backs?
I feel like everything going good with the running backs. Everybody look good, feel good, and I feel like it's going to be a big year for us.
How is that kind of the rotation with you, Kyson, Kanye, kind of working out so far?
It's going well. Just keep rotating, getting a lot of reps, getting same amount of reps, quality reps. So it's good right now.
How does that work from a kind of a running back's perspective of going in and out, kind of depending? And obviously you guys are very versatile in what you can do, but not necessarily maybe having like that kind of bell cow guy like Scott was a year ago.
Just staying ready, staying focused, and just be ready when your time is called. So just got to be prepared.
How do you feel like you made the strides throughout the course of fall camp?
I feel like I did good fall camp, improving a lot of things, running between tackles. So I feel like I improved a lot since last year. So I feel good.
Kenny mentioned that one of the areas that you improved, kind of the power in the tackles, adding the weight. What was that process like? Just making sure you can obviously be explosive, but still run over guys.
Coach Joe got us right. So good weight, good summer workouts, getting bigger, getting faster, stronger. Then on my part, just trying to eat a little more. Just that's about it.
And of course, sharing a backfield with a guy like Sam, guy getting some Heisman buzz. How have you seen Sam heading into this season as opposed to heading into last year?
Way better, way more confident, way more precise. Like he know the offense way more. He's just communicating way more vocal, and then that's about it.
And of course, just a week from today, you're playing NAU. You guys coming in ranked number 11 in the country. They're coming in, an FCS team. How do you make sure you guys don't overlook them?
Just don't play down to the competition. Play our game and play our football. And we know what that is.
How much have you missed being in a sold-out, loud stadium?
I miss that. I miss it a lot. I can't wait. That's all I think about is playing my first game every day. That's all I think about.
What are Sun Devil fans going to see from you this fall?
A lot of touchdowns. I'm going to keep saying that.
Are you still treating this kind of like this is the end of fall camp, or are you treating this like this is game week?
This game week. This game week. Yeah. We did a little bit of game prep stuff today. This like game week, man. It's finally here.
Yeah. How fun is it for you to kind of like get back into that groove and know like, all right, Saturdays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, that's the business, that's the goal.
No, definitely. I feel like it's real fun trying to get back in that groove. Just I feel like the energy in the building was just real up today. Like everything just felt good. And, finally game planning for another opponent and not our offense.
Yeah, and obviously just with the excitement of obviously the fan base, and obviously with the fact that exactly 1 week from today, 50,000 people are going to be in that building, the energy around the program over the offseason. I mean, how exciting is that for you, considering what the week 1 environment was last year and the excitement of what it could be this year? Yeah.
Man, it shows that, what Coach Dilly been preaching since day one, activating the Valley. I feel like me being here my first year, just the first game, then last year the first game, and this year I can only imagine what it's going to be like. So just the whole progress and the growth of the fan base and, the Valley activated.
What would you say the biggest part, I guess, of the secondary over the course of camp? Where do you feel like the biggest room of growth has been made since the start of camp? You feel like with all, especially with the amount of guys who may be experiencing it for the first time and all of you veterans, what do you guys feel like you had the goals and you feel like you met them maybe as we know?
I feel like our communication is just way better than last year. I feel like that's one thing we've been harping on, Coach Ward's been harping on, so we just been communicating very well. I feel like that's the step one, for the play lineup, we got to communicate, all be on the same page. So that's one thing we've been focused on. So I feel like that's taking a big step from last year.
And what? Oh no, go ahead.
How's that? Kind of related note. The chemistry with Javen, heading in as top guys in the room.
It just make it easy, man. When you got a guy like Javen out there, just somebody that you just real close with off the field and on the field, it just makes it way easier knowing that we're gonna go out there and we just always pushing each other. I feel like we got that relationship with each other, and we just want to see each other win. He make a play, I'm gonna be right there. I make a play, he gonna be right there to celebrate. So it's just a great relationship with him, and I feel like even all the other corners, even the safeties too, like we all got a bond like that.
What have been the unique traits, at least from Coach BC's standpoint, of like what he's been looking at of you guys, at least on the leadership roles?
Yeah.
What at least has he been complimenting you guys, and what pieces do you feel like you guys still need to work on as you guys are preparing for like an actual opponent?
Yes, sir. Coach BC has just been challenging us, just being leaders, vocal leaders. So I feel like me and Javen, we're kind of like more of quiet guys, more lead by example type of guys. So the challenge this year was kind of going in, and we got to me and him being the returning starters, we got to be vocal. So that's one thing we've gotten way better at. And then also they just been preaching on staying on the little details. That's for like them helping us stay on the little details. I feel like it's just making us way better.
And obviously you stand across the line from them, but seeing the improvements that obviously with Jordan, but with the rest of the receiver room and what the improvements that they have made going against them one-on-one, not only at Camp T but also in the week since. What have you kind of seen out of them, and at least in the one-on-ones, and how do you feel like you're prepared to at least go one-on-one against somebody now?
I feel like just going against those guys every day just makes me better, man. The work that I see them put in and day out, JT, Malik, Turbo, Jalen Moss, all them guys, I feel like they come in and they work every day. So going against them guys has definitely got me way better, and I feel like I'm going to be prepared for this season.
Being a roommate with Kyson, what is that like? Obviously you guys are very close and have a history there, but sharing the room with one of the offensive leaders.
Yeah, I feel like it's good just having a good balance, like that. And then coming home, telling him we won practice, him telling me they won practice, things like that. Me and Kyson, SIP relationship, we just just brothers for real. That's like a brother from another mother, man. We just locked in, and I feel like we got that relationship where we just push each other, kind of like me and Javen, similar. We just always pushing each other to be great. I see him lacking or slacking or slouching, I'm gonna tell him, come on, bro. He say vice versa, man. And
question in the back.
What's up?
So I heard you're like big bro to everybody on the team. How's your response on that?
Nah, man, this is big bro right here, man. That's big bro right there.
Thank you, sir.
With Kyson, obviously, with the number change now, is there any like a friendly competition of who's the real K1?
I'm the real K1. He is S1 PP, still with a 1 in it. We always had that conversation. That's cool though, but it's friendly. Like he'll call me Uno, or I call him 1, or I call him Uno, he call me 1. It's different, like different variations of it. But I'm K1 though.
So of course, you mentioned kind of turning that page to game prep now. What are some early kind of impressions about NAU, what they do offensively? Obviously, had some success last year coming in ranked amongst FCS teams.
I feel like they're just watching a little bit of them so far. I feel like they're a very good team. I feel like they're a team that has a great scheme. They can scheme things up, and I feel like we're not on top of our communication and stuff like that. They can hit us on some plays. So I feel like the challenge for us is really just trying to communicate and everybody being on the same page.
Now, before we close things out here for this evening, just a huge thank you to Sun Devil Family Charities, a 501c3 nonprofit organization created primarily for the purpose of raising funds to provide financial assistance to Arizona State University alumni, students, staff, and immediate family members adversely affected by medical issues. Their SDFC Cares program allows qualified individuals to request financial assistance by completing an application and submitting verification of medical expenses, which are evaluated by their Patient Services Committee. SDFC Cares is the flagship program through which Sun Devil Family Charities provides financial assistance to qualified applicants. Individuals and their immediate family members who have an affiliation with Arizona State University and are facing a financial hardship due to a serious health or medical condition are encouraged to submit an application. So what we're saying here is if you or someone that you love is enduring a medical issue that is causing some undesired and unforeseen financial hardship, Sun Devil Family Charities might be able to help you or help them out. Monetary donations are always appreciated and support those in need due to an unexpected medical condition. Volunteer and sponsorship opportunities are also available, and these opportunities can all be found online, as can the application for assistance. All that's available online at sundevilfamily.org.
All right, so that's going to do it for this episode of Speak of the Devils. I'd like to thank our guests, Mitch Strohman, Raleek Brown, and Keith Abney. We finally, for the first time in a while, this weekend's game will kick off at 7 p.m. TV is on, or I guess maybe not TV, ESPN Plus, on a little streaming action for those folks are so inclined. But make sure you get out there to Mountain America Stadium, support your Devils. Should be a really good atmosphere. And also make sure you stay with us on the social media side. Follow the show on Twitter at SOTD Podcast. Definitely subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Instagram at Speak of the Devils. And give us a follow. Give us a follow on Facebook at facebook.com/SOTD podcast. Give me a follow on all things social at bdenny29.
And you can follow me at Joe Healy42.
All right. So once you're done supporting all of our amazing sponsors that you heard about throughout the course of the episode, drop us a 5-star review on the podcast platform of your choice. Joe and I will be back next week. We look back at what happened in the opener and preview ASU's trip to Stark Vegas.